A traitor, a felon, a loser, a predator, an abuser, someone who spent the weekend and earlier today praising Kim Jong-un while attacking our allies, while not giving our troops, our courageous Navy sailors and Marines aboard aircraft carriers and on ships and stationed in military bases across the world, the basic supplies they need to survive, the nutrition that they need to sustain their own health, while at the same time focusing on changing the aesthetic of our super carriers and ships because he likes the way battleships look, because he loves steam catapults just because, and doesn't like electromagnetic launchers. Somebody who cozies up to Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin while again attacking NATO and destroying America's standing in the world, all while covering up a child sex trafficking ring in the Epstein files, while running around saying, "Deal, I did a deal, 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 deal." We'll talk about that and more on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Brett and Jordy. New depths of depravity right now, brothers. And Iran is watching this. Earlier today, they announced, okay, we're not just going to sit around while you do a blockade and act like a lunatic. Okay, we're going to give you a deadline now, Donald. And if in the next few weeks you don't comply with the MOU terms that you agreed with, we'll go on the offense. We're not just going to sit around and do nothing while you're out there behaving this way. Let's talk about it all.
Good to be here, Ben. Good to be here, Jordy. Good to be here, Midas Mighty. I always love doing the shows with the brothers. Always a good time. You know, I think a lot about, I keep seeing Fox say this, and this is their line that they have said for decades and decades and decades, right? We need to speak in their language. We need to show strength, and that is what Donald Trump is doing. And I just look at everything that's going on, and I see the weakest, most pathetic individual on the planet. How is it showing strength every day, saying, oh yeah, they're begging me for a deal. A deal's right around the corner, making up fake conversations about back channels and all this other garbage. Like, Iran knows exactly what is going on behind the scenes. And when Donald Trump does stuff like that, it only reveals his desperation. It really only just shows how he does not have any sort of strategy in this war. And we know that there are people in his own party who are privately behind the scenes. They know that Donald Trump has no strategy in this war. We know our soldiers, our brave men and women overseas right now, they are wondering, why the hell are we here? What are we even fighting over? And as we get more and more and more stories from our service members aboard the USS Lincoln, and by the way, above numerous other ships, we've been getting messages from family members. It's just honestly just devastating to read what is going on. They do not want them speaking to the media. They are really trying to keep this on the lockdown. They don't want anybody knowing about the true extent of the crisis that is happening overseas right now. They just want to spread their fake news through their CENTCOM accounts and through Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth's Twitter accounts. But we're here to try to get the truth out as best we can, get around those barriers that the White House, the Trump regime has set up. And we're going to do that here today. Jordy, what's the latest on your end?
Brothers, Midas Mighty, it is great to be here. I know we have a lot to get into, and I'm excited to talk about all of it. Look, Brett, Ben, Midas Mighty, when Donald Trump is more concerned over the treatment of how Ghislaine Maxwell and her living conditions are going than the United States Armed Services, well, doesn't that just say it all? Doesn't that just say it all about Donald Trump and his willingness to protect our U.S. troops, the people in the United States, this country? And look, it is just so disappointing every single day. Like, I'm more and more, not that I was expecting anything at all from Donald Trump in this second Trump regime as we're living through it, but like, even my expectations are just so bottomed out from what I was, at least I guess, hopeful for. This guy is not a leader. Every day that he sits as president of the United States, we are less safe. Our military is less safe. Domestically, we are less safe. And it's continuing to play out before our eyes. I am grateful that we have this incredible, community here, the Midas Mighty, this pro-democracy community that just continues to fight and push forward and demand the truth and demand to know the facts and data and receipts. Excited to bring that to today's show. Benji, where are we starting off?
Look, a felon is behaving like a felon. A sexual predator is behaving like a sexual predator. A bankrupter is behaving like a bankrupter. Yes, the guy who bankrupts casinos bankrupts our military, right? He puts all this money that he raised into casinos, bankrupt. Trillions of dollars in our military, down the drain. We're out of weapons. We're out of interceptors. We're out of food for our service members. We are retreating from American military bases, relegated to a base in Diego Garcia, which doesn't have the logistic capabilities to service the aircraft carriers and ships the way our bases in the Middle East did. This is a predictable and foreseeable consequence when you put a felon, predator, bankrupter, lifelong loser, and liar in charge. It's actually quite simple. What distorts is when people try to have debates that act like this is normal, and on one side of the debate is this side, on the other side of the debate is that side. No, there really isn't a debate to be had. What we have to do is call out the fact that this is a horrible, evil loser of a human being doing horrible and evil things and destroying the United States each and every day. If there was a playbook on how you would very quickly tear apart the strength of the United States, this is what you would do. Then you layer on top of it stuff like J.D. Vance. And this deserves more attention, saying, you know what? We don't want the dollar being the reserve currency of the world. It makes us too powerful, and it makes us too dependent on money. And so we should be focused on, I don't know, not having our dollar be the reserve currency now, as the Trump regime's behavior weakens our standing, causes our Treasury yields to skyrocket, the 30-year at its highest level since the Great Recession level, and even getting higher. That was a 5.2, 5.3%, super high, which means our borrowing costs are super high, over $1.3 trillion a year to service our debt. This creates a weaker financial position for the United States, and it feels like J.D. Vance is out there foreshadowing, or it's not even foreshadowing anymore, letting us know the decline that they're bringing in, and they're trying to frame it as a plus. With everything they do, it's dismantling the United States of America from within. They are the snake that this country let in, and that snake's venom has infected this country, and we need to call it out. Predictably, this morning, state regime media Fox went on air with Trey Yingst. Donald Trump either leaks now to Trey Yingst or to Barack Ravid. Notably, both report from Tel Aviv, which is also just a strange thing that the two main people he leaked to are in Tel Aviv. So I understand that there is a war in the Middle East, but it's fascinating that this Trey Yingst guy is always in Tel Aviv. And then you have Barack Ravid. Obviously, he is in Israel as well. But that's Donald Trump's two main sources. At the same time, we've also learned that Kushner met with Netanyahu earlier today, and Netanyahu said, no, we are not ever going to agree to a peace deal regarding Gaza, regarding a Palestine state. Never going to do it. After Donald Trump 3 weeks ago announced a fake peace deal from his board of peace regarding Gaza, and then made that same claim last year in October. Yes, he is a liar. So this morning, Iran knew it was coming, right? Monday morning, market manipulation. Who was it going to be? Was it going to be Trey or was it going to be Barack? Well, today it was Trey, but Iran spoke with Reuters and Wall Street Journal before that took place. So last night, Wall Street Journal had their exclusive talking about Iran preparing to go on the offense, and the Ayatollah promoting from within more generals who feel strongly not just about a defensive posture, but an offensive posture. And then this morning on Tasneem, Iran state media, and then to Reuters here in the States, Iran made it very clear that if the United States did not comply with the MOU, in the next few weeks, Iran would go on the offense. What does that mean? Iran will be cutting the fiber optic cables and internet connectivity cables below the Strait of Hormuz, which are fully exposed, easy to cut. And Iran will consider going on the offense and occupying military bases in places like Kuwait. Iran realizes that the United States is out of weapons and isn't able to fight. And the United States has now moved its only aircraft carrier in the Pacific, while praising Kim Jong-un, the USS George Washington, which we also hear has very bad conditions aboard. They're moving that to the Middle East because of the reporting on what was going down in the USS Abraham Lincoln, which was true, and the fact that family members of our brave sailors and Marines were being more and more vocal and calling them out. And so the Trump regime had little choice, even though they continued to defame our sailors and Marines, but to return those ships. And so Iran realizes that the U.S. is out of weapons. China realizes it. Russia realizes it. North Korea realizes it. Our former allies, I suppose, realize it as well. I say former, are they our allies anymore? I mean, the way Trump talks about NATO, the way he talks about our alliances in Southeast Asia, the way he talks about our alliances around the world, is it just an alliance in name only at this point? But Iran pre-ran Donald Trump's market manipulation. And so they came out with that. But then, like clockwork, Donald Trump goes to Trey, picks Trey in this morning. And Donald Trump's like, we've got back channel communication with the IRGC. We're speaking directly with top IRGC officials, to which the IRGC immediately responded and said, yeah, that ain't happening. That's yet another lie. And in very strong terms, they said this speaks to the utter and complete desperation of the failing Trump regime. But here's Trey Yingst talking about how this back channel is existing and Donald Trump is talking to the IRGC. Here, play it.
The president about the communication with the Iranians, and interestingly, President Trump confirmed to Fox News that there is a back channel with the IRGC. These are the hardline officials inside of Iran, and that the United States and officials in Washington are speaking directly with IRGC officials in Iran. This is another indication that the Trump administration is not just dealing with the political echelon in Tehran, but also some of these hardliners that have launched attacks against U.S. forces.
It's an indication that Trump is lying. There's nothing that is true in what he said. Absolutely 100% a complete fabrication. And Brett, I'll toss it to you, but an embarrassing fabrication. We all know, our sailors and Marines and troops know, the families know, the world knows that's not a true freaking statement. We look like crazy people here in the United States. Brett, Jordy.
Yeah. We look nuts, and as I said in the beginning, like we look so incredibly weak. And this is a war that has played out on social media more than any other war in the history of mankind. I mean, this and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is a new landscape for war right now, where we are seeing information be distributed in real time. In the case of the Iran war, we are seeing statements from the IRGC. We are seeing officials in Tehran speaking publicly about all of these issues in real time. And so they haven't exactly been shy about what's going on behind the scenes. So I think any time in this scenario where you hear Trump, and this is a strategy that he has deployed for decades and decades and decades, right? Saying that other people are saying this thing. They may not have said it publicly, but they're having these secret conversations with him. Guess what? All these conversations turn out to be just what's going on in his head. He's hearing voices. He's making it up. As Ben said, the guy is just lying to everybody. And the fact that this gets laundered as if it is truth. And then you have also Trey Yingst there continuing to push this narrative that kind of the IRGC and the politicians in Tehran are so far apart on all these things. And Donald Trump has to manage both those things. I feel like what we've seen is that the leadership in Tehran has blessed, so to speak, all the actions of the IRGC. They are working here at one unit. They may have disagreements about things the same way anybody has disagreements about things, but they try to act like there is this huge divide right now in Iran with how to proceed, when Donald Trump's actions have actually unified all the various factions across Iran. And when I look at the situation of Donald Trump taking our troops away from Korea, for example, and I see that lining up exactly when he is removing our ships from Asia to bring them to the Middle East, I'm not sure I've heard people speak about it in this way, but, Trump tries to put on that, oh, they didn't help us with Iran. I mean, why would they help us with Iran? They want to get into your failed, ridiculous, illegal war. They didn't help us with Iran, so I'm pulling the troops. When I look at it, I actually see it, and this is my opinion, as a bit more of desperation of, we know that we're running low on munitions here. Our soldiers, our men and women in service are right now really kind of hanging by a thread because of the treatment that they've gotten and the long deployments that have lasted way longer than they were promised, that I think we need more people. I think Donald Trump is bringing more people out of there because he's getting desperate in the Iran war, the same way we needed those ships from Asia to come because we were running out of supplies and running out of basic humanitarian conditions on ships like the USS Abraham Lincoln, despite Donald Trump's denials. So I think this is it's almost like going to the well, the strategic reserve, which Donald Trump is also emptying right now, right? When you're running low on your supply, you got to find the supply somewhere else. So in the case of our soldiers, Donald Trump is now looking, where else do we have soldiers? Where can I pull them from? We need more bodies. That is just my interpretation. And I'm sure there are many interpretations of what's going on, but everywhere you look, you see a very kind of shrinking power of the United States in the region, and the countries in the region know it. That's why you're seeing these new security pacts form in the region, because they're saying we can't trust the United States security umbrella anymore. This kind of deal that we've had with the United States over years and years and years and years, we can't trust that. The United States is not a global leader. So we're going to form amongst our Arab nations here, we're going to form our own security umbrella. And hey, if China wants to help us out with that, great. The United States certainly isn't helping us out. And so Trump is also driving anybody who'd be willing to help us in the region away from us to people who are considered our adversaries. And it's really kind of the worst case scenario. And it shows you why this leadership is not only ineffective, but it's completely dangerous. And it's why, Donald Trump is being criticized by military experts who aren't partisan hacks on Fox.
It's exactly that, Brett, too. It's, obviously, first and foremost, like my main concern now is getting out of this war of choice by Donald Trump and, trying to live under some sort of normalcy, however that might take shape. But as you talk about our allies or former allies forming their own pacts, forming their own groups here without us, leaving us, just to kind of be on this like isolated island over here as Donald Trump wanted it, right? America first just means America all alone. I worry about the long-standing issues of how America could get back in the good graces of our allies, right? We are stronger together. We are stronger with our allies. Standing alone, that's not a good place to be. And I just wonder how they could ever trust us again as we move forward here. But again, first and foremost, got to get us out of this war of choice that Donald Trump has brought us in and has made people in this country less safe, has made our troops less safe, and has just made our economy less stable and less safe. So as we move forward here, I think it's just important to remember that Donald Trump is the world's worst businessman, and he is running his presidency as if the United States is one of his many failed businesses. Look, this guy has bankrupted casinos, as Ben was talking about. The number one rule of casinos is the house always wins. Well, I guess not if Donald Trump is running it. And that's where we see ourselves right now as a country, just bankrupted by this commander in chief that doesn't know how to lead, that's just leaving its troops and its citizens out to dry here as he continues to fail forward. And it's confusing and it's frustrating. And I know many people kind of, in my community here and in my, familial circles out here are just genuinely concerned and frustrated because they don't see a way out of this, especially as Donald Trump continues to sort of leverage America's, cachet, if you will, with these negotiation tactics that he has. His negotiating tactics that he does, it might have worked when the cards were rigged in his favor, when everything was rigged for him, when his daddy was help bankrolling, lawsuits and things like that and staffing up legal things so Trump could stiff the contractors. That might have worked back then, Now, the issue is he's dealing with human beings and he's dealing with lives. He's dealing with life and death. And he's still trying to use people like they're pawns in this war of choice that he's gotten us in, with like real world implications. Not just that this business is going to go under, but that this country's going to go under, and that we'll never get back in the good standings of our allies. And it's just, incredibly, again, frustrating. I don't mean to sound so doom and gloom here, but it's something that I've, been saying on this show and this pod, is that the longer Donald Trump remains president, like we are not going to get out of this war under his presidency, because he cannot effectively lead us out. And he does not have the people around him to acutely push back on things that are just non-negotiables for the other side.
But look, I think there's a way out of this hell, by the way. That's part of the title of our book, WTF America. Let's get out of this hell and back to democracy. And when you see Senator Ossoff's speech in Atlanta, you say to yourself, there actually is a way out. And Donald Trump's response is, Pee Wee Herman, huh, huh, huh. And Senator Ossoff has touched upon a unifying feeling that I think a lot of people haven't really even seen since they saw some of Obama's speeches when Obama was in the Senate and gearing up to run for president. But there's a lot of people out there as well. But one of the main points we make in the book, and that I reiterate here over and over again, is that we have to build a new framework for thinking about government. And it's the framework that we always should have had. And we have to start asking more basic questions, which is, what is even the purpose of government? It is not to have a dystopian reality TV show where people who hunger for attention engage in outrageous behavior, and whoever can suck up most of the media airtime is someone who's viewed as more electable. It is who is the best public servant who serves we, the people. It is to root our reporting in the people. It's why Katie Fang roots her reporting in the survivors and fights for the survivors. And she does it however she can and is doing a very successful job in it. It's why people who are affiliated with the MeidasTouch Network, like Aaron Parnas, and our reporting here, roots our reporting in what are the military families saying, even as the Pentagon and CENTCOM attack us and attack Aaron and say our reporting is false. We know it's true, and we know it's breaking through because we're telling the truth from the perspective of the people who are actually being impacted. And that's how we have to ground our stories. When Scott McFarlane reports, he's talking about the people who are impacted by an abuse of the Trump regime. On Legal AF, we're hearing from the lawyers who are in the courtrooms on the front lines, who are fighting for the people. We've done partnerships with the ACLU, Democracy Forward, and other organizations who are fighting these cases, who now have a platform to tell the truth. That is a way forward. It is not just talking the talk, and it is reshaping our thinking about governance. And we need to stop the split screen media back and forth. This person yells at this person. And we need to tell the facts, and we need to tell the truth, and we need to bring out the charts, and we need to look at what are the gas prices right now. Oh, wait, the highest ever in the history of the United States at this time in August on a national average basis. Good or bad? Very bad. Treasury yields, 5.2%, the highest since a Great Recession. Good or bad? Very bad. What does that mean? It means we're paying lots of money to service the interest on our debt, on our bonds. We're having the worst bond sales imaginable because foreign countries don't want to buy our paper anymore. What's Donald Trump's approval right now? 3% according to the latest YouGov, the worst in history for Donald Trump. Just as bad, if not worse, than Nixon at the time that Nixon resigned. Okay? We got to root it in the facts. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. When we come back, we still have a lot to cover. We'll also talk about Donald Trump getting rebuked in the United States Supreme Court, rejecting again his appeal and request for rehearing in the E. Jean Carroll case. Now, she shows when you stand up to Donald Trump, you win. He threw everything at her. and E. Jean persevered, and Donald Trump has nowhere to go. He's been found civilly liable for sexual assault and defamation. He's already had to pay up, and the Supreme Court said, get the hell out of here, essentially. They didn't even want to hear it, rehear. All right, let's take a break. Reminder, WTF America, that's the title of our first, and it's our newest book, but the first book we've ever written. Order now, pre-order. Our publisher says, Ben, the pre-order momentum is great, but we got to keep the pre-order momentum going into pub date. So if you haven't got your copy yet, pre-order it right now. It's dedicated to you, the Meidas Mighty, as it always should. We'll take our first quick break of the show.
I have something crazy I have to say, so just hear me out. I don't mind scooping my cat's litter box anymore. Honestly, ever since I started feeding my cats Smalls, their poop has been healthier, smaller, and a lot less smelly. That's because Smalls is fresh, human-grade cat food that's made from high-quality meat, not cheap fillers. You see, meat is easy for my cats to digest, which means their bodies absorb more nutrients and healthier poops come out of their rear end. In contrast, the stuff I used to feed my cat was made with grains and artificial ingredients that were hard on my cat's body, and their nasty poops were proof of that. And Smalls isn't just good for digestion. 88% of cat parents say that after feeding their cats Smalls, their cats have a softer and shinier fur coat and just have all around more energy to play. Also, overall, they just seem healthier because it's really good for cats. If you want to invest in your cat's health, Smalls is giving you 60% off your cat's first order, plus free shipping and free treats for life when you go to smalls.com/Meidas. If your cat doesn't like it, Smalls will refund 100% of your order. But trust me, your cat's gonna love the taste of Smalls, and you'll love that your house no longer smells like a litter box all the time. That's 60% off plus free shipping and free treats for life when you go to smalls.com/Meidas. This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack sponsor. IQ Bars are better for you, clean plant protein bars packed with fiber and brain boosting nutrients with zero added sugar. You no longer have to choose between healthy or delicious snacks. IQ Bar's plant protein bars are packed with high quality ingredients to help keep you physically and mentally fit. You won't find any unrecognizable ingredients on their label. The number one ingredient in their bars is almonds. IQ Bars are great for any diet, whether by choice or due to allergies. IQ Bars are free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial sweeteners. Try any of their 9 delicious flavors, including mint chocolate chip, chocolate sea salt, banana nut, toasted coconut chip, lemon blueberry, and peanut butter chip. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are starting their days on the right foot with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Obviously, these bars taste great, but the real benefit is how they make you feel. When I've got my IQ Bars, I feel great and I'm ready to take on the day. Most protein bars hurt my stomach. It's so nice to have one that's actually clean and includes fiber. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus get free shipping. To get your 20% off, text TRUTH to 64,000. Text TRUTH to 64,000. That's TRUTH to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Helps us out. Benji, where to next, big bro?
Got new glasses. I took the Meidas.
And they're not smudged.
What'd you say?
Sorry. No, sometimes
he said they're not spudged. Give it a week.
No, these are new glasses. I was reading your comments. You all said I should get new glasses. And to be fair, I see much better. This is a revelation to me. I should have taken, I'm very stubborn.
I got to say, the emails we get on the MeidasTouch inbox, that when people submit comments or questions and all that stuff, is always very fascinating to read. You certainly have a lot of positive comments. Thanks, thanks, Ben. Watch every day. Thanks, brothers. Really appreciate what you do. Excited to order the book. Just pre-out. A lot of really nice comments, right? Also, a lot of comments about Ben's appearance. And Ben's glasses, if you were to do one of those word clouds of the things that were submitted to our email account, Ben's glasses were probably high up there. I didn't have the heart to tell him, because when he's in a flow, right, I don't want him to be thinking about his glasses, right?
Yeah, it's like when a pitcher is pitching a perfect game, you don't go, hey man, get the next batter out. You just
It
let
was
him do his
also one
thing.
of the reasons why I didn't want to switch, because I was getting superstitious and it was all working.
Did and we'll get to the news in a second. Did the comments like specifically say he needs new glasses, or he just needs to clean them?
It was the comments were fairly brutal about the glasses.
They were, but they fell into two categories. One, the cleaning, big issue for the Midas Mighty. Ben's dirty glasses, a lot of anger about that, a lot of anger. Number two, though, was the fact that the glasses weren't properly fitting Ben's face. Therefore, Ben, throughout his takes, needed to constantly be pushing his glasses up his nose, up the bridge of his nose. That too was irritating a lot of people.
I could see that.
Here's the thing. I took action. I fixed it. I'll tell you who's not taking action and who's not fixing it. Smooth transition. Donald Trump.
Wow.
Exactly. Well, look, let's talk very seriously, because while Donald Trump's out there wasting trillions of taxpayer dollars, running out of expensive interceptors and ATACMS, and wanting to do a Trump class of nuclear battleships because Trump likes the aesthetic of battleships from circa 1920 to 1940. Donald Trump says he doesn't like electromagnetic launchers for our very sophisticated aircrafts aboard these aircraft carriers. Instead, he likes steam catapults because he likes steam. So he wants a complete redo of what's already been built on our newer aircraft carriers, while he's wasting our money on that and ripping away our healthcare and giving Netanyahu money, while the American people are like, what a minute, you're bailing out Japan, you're giving Netanyahu, you're doing all these crazy things, you're helping out Argentina. This was America first, but this is what, but when Trump says something, just know it's the opposite, right? When it's America first, it's America last. When Donald Trump says, I've rebuilt the military, that's an indication he's destroyed our military. He's literally destroyed our military. I mean, in addition to just morale being at an all-time low, just think about it from the perspective of, if our soldiers are not getting the nutrition they need in order to sustain their weight, to be able to live, if the toilets don't work and the showers are rotten, if you just think about all the other issues that exist, and then our weapons have been depleted, our bases were sitting ducks, and Iran was able to strike at will, and they did very tactically, while the Trump regime in CENTCOM and those Middle East former Arab nation allies would go along and they'd say, we shot down the drones, we shot down the drones. So while that's happening, while our healthcare has been ripped away, while Trump has helped Netanyahu build an Iron Dome there in Israel, which is the only remaining area in the Middle East that seems to have protection from Iran, if you will, but not the Arab Dome. That failed right away. It's pretty clear that the Arab Dome was literally just a shield for Netanyahu at this point. What's going on in our homeland? Well, the MeidasTouch network dug up some statements by NORTHCOM Deputy Commander Lieutenant General Joseph Girard. I saw this on YouTube, and I went through this conference, and it had like 22 views when I was watching it on YouTube. And there's a great military blog, I think it's called TWZ. They really go into detail on a lot of the military maneuvering. But it kind of cued me into this conference, so I watched it, and I said, "Holy crap! This is a big deal. This is our NORTHCOM Deputy Commander, Lieutenant General Joseph Girard, giving some major warnings. First, a warning that the U.S., despite all this money that's been spent, we don't have the capability to defend against any attack by drone swarms at all here in the United States." Here's what he says. Let's play it.
The next threat to the homeland can be a swarm of inexpensive drones launched from inside our own borders, rather than a missile approaching from thousands of miles away. Does NORAD have the sensor coverage, authorities, and decision speed necessary to respond? And
No.
And could you comment on that and on the gap today, the biggest gap you see?
Well, I mean, we don't have the sensors, and we're not, depending on where that swarm is going to attack, depends on whether we have any sensors at all, and also whether we've got any effectors to get after that problem. So we are ill-equipped right now to handle something like that, and obviously that is we've seen it used. We're seeing it used on a daily basis around the world, and we've got to figure out how to mitigate that threat, but we're not there yet.
So our focus is Trump-class battleships, interceptors that we've depleted, funding Iron Domes for Netanyahu, and also offensive capabilities used in the slaughter of people in Lebanon. But here at home, while our healthcare has been ripped away, we don't have the most basic protection for people here in the pretty damn big deal. Like, that should pretty much be a front page 3 siren story there, Brett.
When I saw it, my jaw actually dropped. Like they say things are jaw dropping. My jaw literally dropped when I saw that. And honestly, I found the way he answered the question even very chilling. After he was asked if we have those capabilities, how he said no and kind of chuckled a little bit. Like, to me, that really chilled me to my core. And you think we have this, $1 trillion military budget right now that Donald Trump wants to make $1.5 trillion, but we don't have the most kind of basic of defenses right now to defend in this modern warfare. It's absolutely outrageous. And I think, everybody thinks, the United States military, right? Most advanced military in the world, they have tech that, you could never even dream is real. Well, the fact that we don't have this technology feels incredibly dangerous. And then I can't help but think about kind of all the other things that Donald Trump has been pushing and saying. I can't help but think, first of all, what kind of Marco Rubio and Trump has been doing with Cuba, because if anyone is going to launch drones, Cuba is probably a place. And if they're kind of preparing for some sort of a new kind of Cuban missile crisis, and that's why Cuba's been on their mind so much right now, was one of the thoughts that came across my mind. Another thought is Donald Trump incessantly, every single day, talking about the stupid ballroom and the need for national security with the ballroom, and posting on his Truth Social, drone ports on top of the White House. We're going to have drone ports and drone defenses and drone. Like, what kind of intel is he seeing where he thinks that he needs to turn the White House, the people's house, into a military target, into a military installation in the United States that has weapons and drone ports and defenses and all these other, I get defenses, but the drone ports on the roof of the White House. And this is what he's pushing in order to get his gilded ballroom through, even though the judge who has currently stayed the case is allowing him to continue all the national security features that are apparently being built underground. The whole thing, it really kind of opened my eyes to everything else that was going on and made me think, that there is a kind of deeper threat out there that they are unprepared for, and that Donald Trump is increasingly paranoid over.
Yeah, I agree with you. That chuckle sent chills down my spine, because usually, when you answer a question, you chuckle like that before saying no. It means not only do we not have it, we're not even close to having the technology that's needed. And when Donald Trump also is so selfish as an individual, and you see photos of him with interceptors behind him as he's golfing in his backswing, if we had the proper technology, brothers, Midas Mighty, my simple question to you is, do you think it would be deployed correctly anyway, or would it look out for the elite of the elite, the top 0.1% who buddies up with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, sort of pay to keep you safe type of scheme, if you will? And Ben, to go on and continue to use your analogy that you were using before, right? When he talks about this, it's really that. When he talks about how good of a negotiator he is, and he writes a book called The Art of the Deal about that, you could just know and bet $1,000 bajillion, all your money, that he's the world's worst negotiator. And we're seeing it play out live in front of our eyes every single second that this war continues to rage on.
Because let's be clear, though, Trump creates the threat against the United States by invading places, Brett and Jordy. So, Brett, you mentioned Cuba. Well, the U.S. has an embargo on Cuba, and it has barricaded around Cuba with ships and is starving the people of Cuba to death. could say what you want about the Cuban government or regime. We're starving the people to death, and then we're threatening war. Cuba's not on its own going to launch drones against the United States, just launch an offensive attack. They're not going to do that, in my humble opinion, okay?
No
but
way.
if the United States invades it, it's going to be at a war. Donald Trump believes that everyone's going to respond like Delcy Rodriguez and allow Trump to steal their money and put it into bank accounts that we don't even know where the hell $13 or $20 billion went. But if you look at what the CIA and intelligence reports are of Cuba, there are some of the same warnings that existed about Iran, that the Cuban government, despite Trump speaking with Raul Castro's grandkid and thinking that that's someone he could work with, that'll be the Delcy Rodriguez for him, that is not a realistic solution, most analysts will tell you. And so we create the threats and invade places, and Trump says he's doing peace. They go, what? You struck back? I mean, if you think about even the response to Canada, the Trump regime is saying we're angry that Canada retaliated against our trade war against Canada. They're supposed to do nothing. They did retaliatory tariffs. Yeah, retaliatory. You attacked them, they retaliated, and they responded. You invaded Iran. You slaughtered schoolgirls in Manab. By the way, that's the most high-profile war crime. But let's not forget, early on in the war, the Trump regime tried out a new exploding pellet missile that it was testing and decided it would test it on a gym where young girls, this is a constant theme with the Trump regime, young girls, right? Where young girls were in volleyball practice in Lanierd. And we slaughtered 17 little girls playing volleyball practice together. Okay, so Trump attacks and invades, and then a country responds, and then it's like, oh my God, how could they be responding? And because that's a frequent response when you attack. If you think about Trump's litigation posture as well, and when you talk about the response by the BBC to Donald Trump's attack on them, it's like he's shocked that they would notice depositions of the Trump kids when they're essential to the claims being asserted against the BBC regarding January 6th. And Trump claims I was defamed by $10 billion because the way you edited the Panorama documentary, and it made it seem like I was involved in the J6th insurrection. That defamed me. Really, at the same time that we heard what you said on J6, you pardoned the insurrectionists or commuted them. You tried to create a fund, which frankly still exists in other forms right now. And you're saying that defamed you $10 billion? And then the BBC tries to serve subpoenas on Trump's kid and Jared Kushner. And what do? They use the Secret Service to shield them from being subpoenaed, as though they should not have to participate in the lawsuit. And Trump doesn't want to turn over his records. Can I do a do-over? Can I change? And Trump, when he is when the person he's suing or corporation he's suing defends itself, Donald Trump then pulls a 2-week death loop like the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump says, I want to amend my complaint. I want to change it. And then he tries to drag it out over and over and over again until he eventually loses. And he does eventually lose. That's his whole mindset. You can study how he behaves in lawsuits like a loser. You can study how he behaves in war like a loser. You can study how he behaves in business like a loser. That's one of the things here too. I never want us to have an authoritarian. I'll be very clear. But it is also clear that the authoritarian that spawned here in the United States is a loser who one of the main images of him is hiding in a catering container with his human printer, Natalie Harp, is trying to escape from a threat that Netanyahu told him about, which probably didn't really even exist, that Iran was going to shoot down the old Air Force One while he was too scared to also fly on Qatari Air Force One. And here he is this morning posting stuff like this. It's why the title of our book is WTF America, because it ain't normal what is happening. And by the way, I think Senator Ossoff, and we talk about this in the book, does a great job at calling out the stuff that's not normal, but linking it with how people's lives, when people want to live normal lives, how that is being impacted and harmed by Donald Trump's abnormal, loser, traitorous, treasonous behavior, in my opinion. So Donald Trump posts this morning. It won't really get a headline. If it's reported on, maybe it'll be like, look how crazy Donald Trump is. You're missing the bigger piece of it here. Donald Trump posts this image of Kim Jong-un. Hey, Donald, we cool, right? And it's a photo of Kim Jong-un. And that follows Donald Trump saying Kim Jong-un and North Korea are friends. This is what he posted yesterday, that our own military exercises with South Korea are hostile. He attacked South Korea for not joining the United States in its catastrophic war against Iran, and how the United States, he says, pays for all of South Korea's defense, which is false. South Korea pays a lot of money to have the U.S. there, and there's joint spending obligations. But what we have to connect this all to is the broader situation in the world of how this behavior has destroyed the United States standing in the world. And going back to the point that Jordy made, that is likely irreversible. Because even when Trump is gone, countries are going to remember, you brought that guy back again. Okay, you did it the first time, but you brought the guy back again. And we remember what he did. So I spend a lot of time every episode in the morning focused on international affairs to provide education that perhaps our corporate news is completely ignoring. For example, the formation of the Mecca Pact, a Sunni alliance, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey. Saudi Arabia and Turkey were rivals for a long period of time. The fact that they created their own version of a NATO, and that's how they refer to it, with Article 5-like defense obligations amongst those nations. Egypt may be joining soon. Who else may be joining soon? Maybe Qatar, maybe somebody else. Because Donald Trump is so weak and pathetic and thirsty for a deal, he praises the Mecca Pact as though that's something that he did. And he's like, finally, they did it. I mean, you showed the post. This is the post he made. Finally, these countries did it. Very happy to see that Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan have recently and finally signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. It shows how the Middle East is coming together and how countries will finally be able to defend themselves in a more meaningful way. Congratulations, idiot. It's because you promised to protect them and you failed at doing that. And now you're praising Kim Jong-un, while our military leaders, and we'll go back to what the NORAD commander said, is saying this isn't a game, that North Korea poses currently an existential threat to our country right now, is what the NORAD guy is saying. And that's who you're praising. North Korea has launched multiple ballistic missile tests recently, bragging about its nuclear capabilities. And when Trump says there's nothing that they've done that was aggressive, they've been, quote, unthreatening and respectful. When you say that, the rest of the world who look to the United States for leadership have a collective gasp of what the hell is going on, while Kim Jong-un and Putin are out there just laughing and saying, we couldn't have designed this better. So Brett and Jordy, let's go to the last break right now. I want to cut to you to talk and get your response about all of that. We playing less clips of Trump, which I think the audience probably appreciates, but more detail as well. So let's take our last break. A reminder, order WTF America right now. Pre-order if you can. Our publisher says the pre-order is probably the most important thing to sales and keeping the momentum. So if you were thinking, hey, should I get it now or should I wait? Get it now if you can. Pre-order it. We'll put a link in the description below. We've got the QR code up as well. You can Google WTF America. I think it's easier to QR code or do the link. Let's take our last quick break, and Brett, I'll toss to you and Jordy to get your response to what we just said as well.
Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Here's the thing, thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. All that hidden bacteria in regular sheets, it can clog your pores and cause breakouts. Miracle Made's antibacterial design helps you sleep cleaner and clearer night after night. And they feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without that steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. The moment you notice something's off in the bedroom, it tends to stick with you. Most guys sit on it longer than they should. HIMS makes it simple to actually do something about it with real treatment options 100% online. HIMS connects you with a licensed healthcare providers online, giving you simple access to legitimate ED treatment options from home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines. Just complete a simple online intake and provider will review your information to determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment ships directly to your door. That includes sildenafil, also known as generic Viagra, available through HIMS at up to 95% less than the brand name version. And if that option isn't right for you, there are additional treatment options available, so you can find out what works best for your body. It's straightforward, transparent, and designed to make getting care feel easy. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, and more, visit hims.com/Meidas. That's HIMS.com/Meidas. hims.com/Meidas. Not available in all 50 states. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark for Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. Shout out to our sponsors, y'all. Links in the description of the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Sorry, a lot of commotion over here. Still on baby watch, by the way. Could happen any day. Could happen during the show.
Could happen right now. Maybe that was what your dog was so excited about.
Triggered my dogs to just bark. I heard your dogs.
It's a doggy domino effect. You're saying
domino effect of dogs right now.
How did you know your dogs weren't barking and my dogs have such great hearing that they heard that, which triggered them to bark? Just saying.
That's why I got to wreck the headphones.
I think we were going to kick it to you after break.
Yeah, were we going to kick it to me? I don't remember.
All right, let me show you this here, Brett, because I wanted to go back to Trey Yingst reporting out of Tel Aviv for the Trump regime and state regime media. Here's Trey Yingst over here talking about how Donald Trump told him that if Oman gets in the way, we're going to bomb the shit out of Oman, Donald Trump says. Now, I want to say this before we play the clip. Oman was the last port call for the USS Abraham Lincoln. And so that's a place that we rely on for our troops to be fed. Okay? And the other place was Bahrain, which the Fifth Fleet over there, which Iran destroyed. So one of the only remaining areas where you can refuel or get your supplies would be Oman. Oman was the mediator originally who did the deal. Oman's foreign minister did a deal between the US and Iran that was actually better than the JCPOA. And then Oman's foreign minister went on CBS and said, we did the deal. And that was the night that Trump and Netanyahu invaded Iran. And so Oman is a neutral party in this. They've been working with Iran on having a system of control over the Strait of Hormuz, since both Oman and Iran are on the opposite sides of the Strait of Hormuz. So when Donald Trump does this, it's like, dude, you're just an idiot. Why are you threatening to blow up Oman? What in the hell are you doing here? And all this will do is tell Arab nations, hey, you see what's going on over there with the Mecca Pact? By the way, I saw in UAE deep regrets amongst their wealthy people. Why the hell did we join the Abraham Accords that Kushner made us enter into with Israel? This is now given a liability to us. This isn't working for us right now. And then they say, and look, you have all these statements coming out of Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir and Smotrich from Israel saying they've always said this, but they've like been ramping it up. If you could even ramp it up from where you go before, how do you ramp up more than saying genocidal, sick things? But they're just out there saying it every day. I try to cover it in the morning and say, look what they're saying. Like, this is what they're saying out loud. What do you think they're saying behind the scenes? So anyway, here's what he says about Oman. And that's why I wanted to give you the background, though, and not just say, oh, here's Donald Trump saying this. Dude, this was the place that helped get supplies to our freaking sailors, you idiot. Here, play this clip.
Now, I asked the president about these parallel talks that are taking place between Iran and Oman about control of the Strait of Hormuz. And the president told Fox News, if Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the S out of them. We went on to talk about...
And again, this is someone who doesn't have the emotional intelligence. That's the nicest thing I can say about him. To be in this position. And by the way, Hillary Clinton warned about this during the debate in 2015. If he can be baited by a social media post, what do you think that world leaders can do with this guy? And he's out there saying this. Think about the stuff he said. I'm going to blow the effing S out of them. Now it's Oman, you're going to blow the shit. If Oman gets in the way of what? What if they get in the way of? What are they? They're negotiating with Iran. You have no involvement in this right now. And you're out there taking credit for the Mecca Pact, which is a reaction to your weakness. And then going back to what our NORAD commander is saying, as I've said before, that I was going to show you when we come back, the NORTHCOM deputy commander is saying, look, North Korea has successfully tested ICBMs that could attack us, and that North Korea is a current present threat against us. Listen to what he says. Here, play this clip.
Since 2022, China has launched 8 Shang-3 class nuclear-powered guided missile submarines and likely will have all 8 operational by 2027, providing the Chinese with a clandestine land attack option against critical infrastructure in Alaska and along the West Coast. Meanwhile, adversaries are developing and fielding advanced nuclear and conventional delivery capabilities, cruise, hypersonic, and ballistic missiles, as well as fractional orbital bombardment systems, or FOBs, to threaten not only Alaska and Hawaii, but the entire continental United States. The Chinese are developing ICBMs equipped with hypersonic glide vehicles, as well as FOBs weapons that can approach North America from the south rather than the traditional northerly vector for which our legacy early warning radars were designed. Such systems would erode strategic stability by degrading our ability to provide granular and actionable warning of an inbound attack.
So you get the point. And one thing I wanted to mention too, Brett, as you were talking about the defensive capabilities that Trump wants on the White House, I think that was the most significant part, is that while the United States homeland is not protected, Donald Trump wants to only protect himself. That's one of the main issues. He wants the White House to be a military facility that has anti-drone and anti-ballistic capabilities, while the rest of the United States remains unprotected while he diverts trillions of dollars to the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, and it goes to what Jordy was saying before, right? Like, he's going to make sure he's safe. He's going to make sure all of his rich buddies are safe. They're going to be in their bunkers that they've been building, right? But the rest of us, who cares, right? He doesn't care about it. He doesn't care about the rest of us. And and what I was going to say before about all this is, when you look at just the geopolitical landscape overseas right now, and you see what we've been doing to Iran, and just invading, like bombing them relentlessly, blowing up schools, all this stuff, and you see the way Donald Trump is speaking about North Korea. Korea and the way he's just abandoning our allies, the way he's just screwing over South Korea, you can't help but think, strategically, if you're Iran, or if you're, any other kind of non-nuclear country, the country that doesn't have nuclear weapons, you're probably thinking right now, I better get me some nuclear weapons. It's clear that the United States isn't going to screw with any country that has nuclear weapons. Look at how nice Donald Trump is being to Kim Jong-un. Look at how nice he's being to North Korea since they got nukes, right? Donald Trump doesn't say anything nice. He just says love letters and he's great and what a good guy and all this stuff. But Iran, maybe he would have thought twice about bombing Iran if they had nukes. Maybe he'd think twice about bombing whatever the next Iran would be if they had nukes. I think that has to be the calculus that a lot of these countries are going to have. And I think a lot of the countries in the region also, who we basically promised, don't get nuclear weapons because we will protect you in case anything happens. They also have to be rethinking right now all of this, especially, even, in light of how Donald Trump has really just abandoned Ukraine, right? That was kind of the whole deal with Ukraine, that we'd have your back throughout all this. No need to, get, all those sorts of weapons. But Donald Trump just has continued to screw over these countries, screw over our allies, but he's also kind of shown his cards as to, okay, well, what is it going to take for the United States, for the next Donald Trump or whoever, whatever warmongering president that is, what's it going to take for them not to screw with me? And maybe it's nukes. And to me, that creates a much more dangerous world when, for a period of time, the world was leaning towards nuclear denuclearization across the world, not proliferation. And so I think we're just in an incredibly dangerous place globally.
I'm going to toss it. Ben, I'll toss it back to you. I just want to add this really quickly. Donald Trump is the single most emotional president that the United States has ever had. Right? What do these misogynists and MAGA always say? Like when a woman is running for president, oh, you can't leave, she's too emotional. That's the dumbest friggin' shit ever, especially after watching Donald Trump and how he is quote unquote leading us right into a loss. That's what's happening right now, because he can't take a breath and actually make a decision that's going to better impact the American people and our troops. He is way too emotional to lead. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, I stepped on you because I just wanted to make one point when Brett's talking about nuclear proliferation that doesn't get nearly enough attention. And we've been covering it a ton on this network, that a little less than a year ago, Donald Trump authorized nuclear weapon testing within the United States, actually using nuclear weapons in a testing format inside the continental United States in places like Nevada or New Mexico, to which the senators there said, what the hell are you doing? And Donald Trump claimed that he had super secret intelligence that nobody else knew about, our allies didn't know about, nobody knew, where he said that Russia and China were actively doing nuclear testing, like right now, which no one's done nuclear testing since like the early 1990s. What they are doing is they're testing the delivery systems, the ballistics, for example, that can carry nuclear weapons. And they've run simulations as part of the testing, what the nuclear weapons would do in terms of the fallout, but they did not actually do nuclear weapons testing. It would register like an earthquake if they did. We'd be able to have objective criteria to see if it actually happened. And we know that's not true. But on that basis, Donald Trump, MAGA Mike Johnson, J.D. Vance, and the entire Trump regime said, we will be testing nuclear weapons, to which Russia responded through Peskov and Lavrov and their people over there. Well, if you're going to test, then we're going to have to test. And then you have the same statements coming out of China, which is, well, if you're going to do it, then we may have to think very differently about all of this. And again, that's a story that kind of in the Trump news cycle disappears. But it's our duty as members of independent media to say, let's remember that's an objective fact. That's what Trump said. And that's incredibly dangerous. And that fact alone, to say we're going to be doing nuclear weapons testing and premising it on false information, should itself not just be impeachable, it should be criminal, in my opinion. We're going to do nuclear testing in the United States. What the hell is even going on here? But I want to bring us some hope as we approach the end of this episode. And the way Senator Ossoff, there's a reason. I mean, he has the it factor. There's some things that are just so intangible, but there are some things that you can observe and say, here's what he's doing very well. we can all obviously mock or call out this bizarre relationship, whatever it is, between Donald Trump and Natalie Harp, his human printer, right? This is bizarre. This is odd. You can speculate what's really happening there. The notes that she's leaving for him, we could all probably get a sense and form opinions on it. But the broader issue is, again, while he's out there with Natalie, hiding in catering containers, stock trading, throwing golf tournaments for himself, where he wins the senior level tournament and the regular tournament, even though we know he's not shooting like below 70 or whatever he claims. When he's doing that, it's not, we can't just be like, look, he's crazy. We know he's crazy. Look at, he's a horrible human being. We know that. But the issue is an issue of good governance, of leadership, of empathy, of public service. And so what Ossoff does brilliant here is connecting these themes, and others would be wise to watch how he does it. He's not a fast talker. I like slow talkers sometimes. And he makes his words count, and they're delivered with emphasis, and the whole package is delivered. And you can see that it's really gotten to the Trump regime's kind of core sensitivities. Stephen Chung says, John Jackoff has to be the biggest cuck loser in politics. Now, Stephen Chung is the White House communications director. I can say a lot about this guy's appearance. I could say a lot about it. Okay? The fact that this guy is making these types of comments, there's a saying, obviously, he who lives in a glass house. I'll just resist some of the references I'm going to be making, and I'll be the better man here, and I won't go.
Won't go what? Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, I was going to go Star Wars Jabba the. Okay, stop. Stop
Yeah,
it. Mature,
don't,
rise.
Don't go there.
Hypothetically
No need to go there.
Rise above it.
We'll cut this out of the pod.
Cut that out. Instead of denigrating hard-working people serving their country, Jon should look deep into his soul and ask himself why he's a miserable person who hates this country. It's because he's a radical extremist Democrat. Scott Jennings says, this is quite a message for the Democratic Party to send to young women working in politics. Party of women? Pretty ugly stuff. And the way they shirk into victimhood right away, it's like, dude, the guy in the Oval Office is literally someone found civilly liable for sexual assault. Like, y'all are covering up the Epstein files. Okay. You managed to take a meeting with the survivors and have your new AG further traumatize the survivors. And you're hiding behind as though you're the champion of women. Brett, I know you were going to say something.
I was going to say the nerve of these people to play the victim and go, "Oh, do you ever think about the feelings of women?" Okay, that's what you're going to make this about right now. Really, when like the same day today you have Donald Trump screaming, berating a female reporter in the Oval Office yet again after asking a very simple question. These people are the biggest cowards imaginable. Okay. The fact that they go.
Okay, I just while it's on my head, this is something that they're doing also, and I just want everyone to see the propaganda tactic that they use, and it's like super creepy. And they do it every year when there is like the back to college sorority rush. The MAGAs will show these videos of rush taking place where the young college girls are joining a sorority and they do their dances and they do their kind of group activities, and MAGA will show their videos and they'll be like, the libs will never like this, or the libs hate this, or the libs don't want to see this. And it's like, number one, why are you all out there finding these clips of like young ladies in sorority rush, like ages 18 to 19? Like, why are you, can't you just let them?
Why y'all creeping like the ASU Tri-Delta sorority Instagram?
Why are you creeping on sorority Instagram stuff? And two, there's no lib who wakes up and goes, ah, this is making me angry. And so they try to create this artificial culture war, and then they fight within their own culture war. Like, this is how woke they are. They're angry at these sorority girls. And it's like, no, we just want no never-ending wars. And we want people to have health care, and we want people to be able to afford homes. There's not a lot of people who are thinking, oh man, that sorority makes me angry. The only thing who I think the people who it makes angry about are the right-wing people who are posting it, and they feel, I don't know, a certain way. I don't know what makes them post it to begin with, but I just want to call that out because it's happening again, and I keep seeing it. And then on the right-wing algorithms, they push it. It's like 3 million views, 5 million views. And then like all the comments are like, yeah, man, libs are getting angry at this. And I'm like, no one's angry at this. There's no one other than you all weirdos who keep posting, who are, you know, it's like everything's stolen valor with them too, right? Like they can't just leave people alone. Like Trump's got to meme himself as a 4-star general and steal the, just let them have their enjoyment in college without making it a weird political thing. Okay. No one's angry about it. Just you're being weird and creepy, and stop posting these damn things. Sorry, Jordy. Oh,
No, sorry, you're right. I was on mute. I was so stunned by the fact that their algorithms are just flooded with this, that they're creepy. There's nothing, they're like, that's why they do it. They're all frigging creeps. Like all these MAGA operatives, man, all these like right-wing red-pilled folks. Sorry, I'm staying at my in-laws. They're the only people left with the house line.
Jordy, you're having a lot of noise. I'm having a lot of noise issues today.
Noisy podcast.
In the 3 minutes that I get to speak during the pod. but they're creeps, man. These right-wing folks are creepy.
Let's toss it over to Jordy. Ruff, ruff, ruff. Ring, 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 ring.
Yeah, it's my bit. But if ever you guys hear the ringing, I can make it louder probably.
Yeah, we hear it.
Brett's here.
All right, bro. Why don't we go to the Jordy's? That's Jordy's
What if this
vintage
is my
black
bit? What if
rotary
every time
phone
you guys
that's
toss it
going
to
on?
me during the episodes, like I just some commotion in the
It's a
background.
good bit. It's a good bit.
This is a pretty good bit.
It's a good bit. It's
It's a
like
bit for this episode at least.
what did you say? Well, I was gonna say. I'll just leave it at that. Let's just let's just pull it back. Let's show you Senator Ossoff. We could play the clip.
And there's something uniquely despicable about lying a nation into war. Treating citizens as fools and those who serve as pawns. Aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, they've now been at sea for 240 plus days without a port call. It's a Navy record. And still they serve with excellence. And still they serve with excellence. God bless the sailors, Marines, aviators, and all aboard the United States ship Abraham Lincoln. See, they don't expect luxury. They'll endure hardship. But they deserve competent leaders who send them into combat only when necessary, and with decisive clarity of purpose, not fools who lie about the purpose and progress of war. And while the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
That is how it's done. Brett, Jordy.
He's really good. And also, Ossoff's background is he was a documentary filmmaker. And so one thing I noticed is that at his rallies, he has some very cinematic angles that I haven't seen at other rallies. It feels like you're watching a movie when you watch him. And I think he understands kind of that this is a big aspect of running for office in 2026 is looking the part and having these good visuals. And he's definitely kind of mastered that. And that's exactly how you need to tie Donald Trump's erratic nature, his corruption, all the chaos that everybody in the kind of corporate media likes to be like, do voters really care about democracy? They don't really care about democracy. Yeah, they do, actually, I'm going to say. And they especially care about it when you connect it to the important aspects of their lives and why Donald Trump's erosion of democracy is actually hurting you in your day-to-day lives. And Ossoff is incredibly effective at doing just that. I also heard, that whole kind of chatter in class going, should he have invoked the name Natalie? Who is that even for? Is that just for the internet? Sometimes you have to set the narrative, right? You don't just run with what's trending. You don't just run with what the people on cable news are talking about. Sometimes you need to force those people to speak about the issues that you want them to be talking about. And by doing that, Ossoff has sparked a conversation about this topic that has people debating it. And now people will watch that full clip and see his entire message. And they will see exactly what he was saying in the whole buildup and how targeted his, I'm not even going to call it an attack, but how targeted his criticisms of Donald Trump and his disastrous war and everything he's doing to the American people, how targeted it truly was and how effective it is. Now more people are going to see that. It's one of the reasons why that clip went viral, why it's reaching more people. And I'm sure it's also one of the reasons the Google searches right now are probably spiking for who is Natalie.
And really quickly,
video of Natalie
going on in the back. Really quickly, I just wanted to say I really do appreciate his communication style. It's clear, it's effective, and it really just gets the job done. Ben, sorry.
Oh, no, Jordy, it's okay. I just wasn't sure if it was going to be, I don't know, some sirens in the background or some honks.
And now we cut to Jordy.
Some meows. The dogs.
Oh, that's
the dogs heard you.
For the audio listeners, that's Ben. That is Ben's. And by the way,
dogs heard you making.
All right. So I'll take over because we got two noisy brothers on the episode who like have all these noises. Yeah, Ben, I know what you want to play. I'm going to play here. So here's a clip.
A lot of people haven't heard her.
I know. I'm going to show you Natalie Harp, and you could. You're going to see, I'll let you form your own judgment. This is Natalie Harp, the woman who has been rumored and reported on to be having a very, I'll say, peculiar relationship.
It's a human printer boss relationship.
With Donald Trump, a very peculiar relationship between the two of them. She writes him love letters and notes, and there's a whole thing going on. I'll let you be the judge of that. This is who also brought up. But let's actually look at who she is when she speaks. Let's play this clip.
We can't talk about winning back the House and Senate in 2022 and the White House in 2024 if we don't act on the fact that we actually did win the White House and the Senate in 2020. We shouldn't be afraid to say that because it's true. We the people know America, as we know it, could be ending in the next 2 or 4 years, which is exactly what President Trump is warning of. They think if they can get President Trump, they can get the 75 million people to shut up and stand down. And they.
She's nuts. Okay. She's nuts.
I think we covered a lot. I think we've covered a lot on today's episode. Should I show the one clip of when Donald Trump was asked about Natalie and what his response was, or should I show the clip of Donald Trump just yelling at the press and just screaming at them?
Let's show his response, because I thought it was actually an incredibly weak response when he was asked about Natalie Harp. It's a question he had to assume was coming. But I think, the interesting thing is when then we were talking about Steve Jong and we were talking about Scott Jennings, the official White House rapid response account. I've not seen them be this defensive about a story, in a while. And I think it's very odd that they've taken this story as the one to try to push back against and try to name call and all this thing. But so here was Donald Trump being asked about Natalie.
Yesterday, Jon Ossoff said you'd rather travel with your aide, Natalie Harp, and build the ballroom than do your job as president. What is your response, Jon Ossoff?
You mean Pee Wee Herman? Pee Wee Herman lookalike? No, I would much rather do other things. We're building a great facility here, We're fixing a White House that hasn't been taken care of. You can look at this. This room was a disgraceful situation, the Oval Office, and it was let go. The whole building, the White House, was let go. The exteriors were falling apart.
And then I want to show this because the White House is now attacking the CNN reporter who asked Donald Trump, I think, a very basic question about Kim Jong-un, and it was about Donald Trump's behavior. And the White House told the CNN reporter, someday your children will come across, from the White House, your children will come across your disgusting and inhumane question. They will be sickened and embarrassed to have a parent be so callous and vindictive. It's quite troubling. And I mean, they're attacking. I mean, just think about the language that they're using. CNN responded and said that we stand behind our reporter. We stand firmly behind Kristen Holmes, one of the most respected and accomplished journalists covering the White House. She did her job and asked the president thoughtful, newsworthy questions on behalf of the American officials. Public officials are free to challenge the reporting they disagree with. The personal attacks on journalists for asking questions are beneath the office and inconsistent with the principles of a free press. I'll just show you Donald Trump screaming. He was screaming at all the reporters today. Let's watch one example.
Obama, he didn't like anybody, but I get along with him very well. No, what I'm doing is making things safer. Just the opposite. Quiet. You're very disrespectful in front of this young man. Okay? Don't you find her disrespectful? He understands. Quiet. Who are you with?
I'm with CNN.
Fake news. You're fake news. You're a loud, boisterous person. You're fake news. Be quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. You're a fake reporter, and you report fake news. Go ahead.
Mr. President, is there enough food on the USS Lincoln?
Yeah, it is. That was a CNN fake report.
And I want to say this too, and I'll leave with this too, because character leadership is very important. And there, Trump turned to a 16-year-old lifeguard who made a heroic rescue in Santa Cruz. That's who Ryder Williams is. Trump didn't know who he was. He had to look at a card and realize the name of who the person even was. But Trump turned to the 16-year-old and said, don't you think that she's disrespectful? As though he needed the 16-year-old's cosign while he attacked the reporter. Think about what a weak and pathetic human being does that. And think about that's the exact type of weak and pathetic human being who disgraces our troops every day, who harms our country every day. Who the hell does that? And as I started with this episode saying, a felon, a traitor, a loser, a predator, an abuser. That's who it is. Jordy.
We out of here?
Unless it's going to be like, rah, 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 scream,
No, I think
meow, meow, moo, moo.
Jordy lives on a farm.
Listen,
brother. Jordy lives in between a farm and a data center, apparently.
I have a lot going on. I love you guys. Great episode. Subscribe to the audio podcast if you aren't already. Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
The
Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Hey, before you go, our book WTF America is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.